Hello and welcome to our virtual wisdom circle episode of The Heart Behind the Daily Hustle of Champions, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm Cindy O'Neill Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections, a community I've had the joy of leading since 2009. Once a month, our conversation to connect is going to be a little bit different. We've added the heart behind the daily hustle of champions. And this month, we're featuring the inspiring Coach Laurie joining us from Everett, Washington. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you. Thank
We're,
you.
we're so glad you're here. The purpose of our virtual wisdom circle, the heart behind the daily hustle of champions, is to spotlight our champion connectors, elevate their visibility, and reveal the daily habits and wisdom that fuel their success. This complimentary offering is open to all and is designed to cultivate a nurturing environment where authentic stories are shared, practical insights are exchanged, and meaningful connections that can truly flourish are exposed or shared. So at the 35 to 40-minute mark, I'll open the lines for Q&A. So as you listen, I want to encourage you to feel free to take notes and any questions or insights that you want to share later in the program. So before we dive into the secret sauces behind Laurie's success, I'd love to invite her to share a bit more about her background and her journey that got you to where you are today, Laurie. For
Thank
those
you.
exceptional connectors who may not yet know you. So take it away, Laurie.
Thank you. Well, I have some pretty big shoes to fill after Karen and Marcel. Uh, so when I was 12 years old, I got a transistor radio and it changed my life. I learned everything I needed to know about life and love from the lyrics from the 60s and 70s. And everything about love and life from beginning to end and everything in between. And it sort of went like this. My mama told me, you better shop around. Well, you can't hurry love. No, you just gotta wait. I met him on a Monday. My heart stood still. The do run, 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 the do run, run. I'm surprised none of you are saying it. But um, you're just too good to be true. Why do birds suddenly appear every time you're near? Just like me, they long to be close to you. Something tells me I'm into something good. Yeah, it's official. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Bend me, shake me any way you want me, as long as you love me. It's all right. Now we're together nearly every single day singing do wah diddy, diddy dum diddy do. Baby, I love your ways. I want to be with you night and day. And you ask me if there comes a time I'll stop loving you. Never, my love. In fact, I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. We're going to the chapel. We're going to get married. Going to the chapel of love. We've only just begun to live. Always and forever, babe. Babe, I got you, babe. Oops, I lost my way. Oh, doctor, doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you. Yeah, and in fact, that's a late 70s song. I always thought that was a like a late 50s, 60s. Um, oh, don't go changing to try to please me. I love you just the way you are. Baby, you better change your evil ways before I stop loving you. If I said something to make you mad, forget the past. The future's bright ahead. Don't be cruel. Baby, you got to stop your evil ways before I stop loving you. Baby, where did our love go? You don't bring me flowers. You don't sing me love songs. In fact, you've lost that love and feeling, and it's gone, gone, gone. I just heard through the grapevine, not much longer would you be mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. You're bad to the bone. In fact, tell me who are you? I really got to know because we can't go on together with suspicious minds. I'm all out of love. Set me free, why don't you, babe? Get out of my life, why don't you, babe? In fact, here's an idea. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more. Well, it's really too late. We really did try to make it. Bye bye, love. Bye bye, happiness. Hello, loneliness. I think I'm going to cry. Breaking up is hard to do. Alone again, naturally, and one is the loneliest number. I'll probably never fall in love again. But I do know this. I'll get by with a little help from my friends. So I'm going to try with a little help from my friends. And there you have it. My life beginning to end from songs of the 60s and 70s. But that little transistor radio, it also introduced me to my career. See, I loved listening to the DJs, Emperor Smith, Kobe McClown, Ichabod Kane, Norm Gregory, Gary Shannon. But notice no women. And so I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I mean, to work in radio, I had to be a sunshine Sherry and hand out prizes or do the news. So I went to a couple years of college, and guess what? FM radio hit the airways, and I heard Charlie Parker on Compass Radio, and I signed up for broadcast school. I told everyone I was going to be a DJ, and they laughed. Note to self, don't share your dreams with people too soon. Well, I graduated from Ron Bailey School of Broadcast and started my career in radio. I worked in Seattle and then in Boise. And 8 years into my career, I met the man of my dreams, and we got married and we had a baby girl. I decided I was going to be a stay-home mom. And then two more kids and 14 years of marriage, and my husband left me for David. And not only that, he took my best tiara and cemented my status as a single mom. And being a single mom was really tough because first I had to learn to ask for help. Then I had to learn to accept help, which I actually think was much harder. And, there was a lot of challenges. I'd go to the grocery store. It was like coffee, tampons. Well, as the kids grew, I decided I was going to try and get back into radio. And so I told my friends, this time ones that were for me, and they rallied around me and supported me. And so I made a CD. We were still mailing them in that day and age, and I mailed them out, and I got a lot of no's. And then I got that no, the no that the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I was done, finished. And my friends, they rallied around me, and they had a pity party for me. There was cake and there was gifts, and they rolled out the red carpet and with sprinkles. And I think it was maybe fairy dust because it gave me what I needed to carry on, to try that one more time. And I made it back into radio. Was it easy? No. But was it worth it? Yes. And so I always say, never give up on your dream. So if you were in Spokane, Washington, you might have heard, I'm Laurie Ann at K102 Country. Or in Seattle, Spirit 105.3, KCIS Radio Traffic, 100.7 The Wolf. You'll always get Kixie News and Traffic mornings and afternoon. The new 570 Talk Radio KVI, Star 101.9, which is, or 5, which is now Hank. You're never more than 10 minutes away from your next traffic update. I'm Laurie on the Como AAA Traffic Center, or the most music for your workday on Warm 106.9. But now it's Cairo Real-Time Traffic. I'm Laurie. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So the heart behind the daily hustle, really, when I think about it, is I learned this when I was a single mom. I needed to make some extra money, and people kept asking me to hem their pants. And I would laugh, and they'd say, "Why are you laughing?" And I was like, well, anybody could hem pants. Why I thought they were humoring me. We'll pay you to do something ridiculous. But what I realized is something that I took for granted that I did easily was something other people couldn't do. And so I started hemming pants in my downtime and making some extra money. And so as I got back into radio and I decided, that I wanted to be more entrepreneurial, I looked at some of these podcast classes and I thought, have you ever done this as an entrepreneur? Someone sells a course and you go look at it and you're like, wait a minute, I know more than them. Or I could be doing this. And so I started to realize that there were some things that I brought to the table that maybe other podcast courses didn't. And so the heart behind the hustle was really, how do we communicate to a listener to make them lean in, to feel like they matter? And in radio, that's Radio 101. We learned how to talk to one person And, I've told you all about that last time, but it's making people lean in and feel like they matter. And that is the heart behind my daily hustle. Because when COVID hit and we realized how lonely so many people were, I remember people would say, "Oh, my house is full and I can't get any alone time." And I'm like, "I'm alone all the time." And they were not sympathetic. They're like, "I'd give anything to have some alone time." So, the daily habits of rhythm that I have that help me stay aligned is one, I take quiet time every morning. And, sometimes that's people don't have to do quiet time only in the morning, but I'm a morning person. So, I get up, I swim, and then I take time to just pray and read my Bible or read a motivational book or do something that keeps me really centered, because especially in this day and age of internet, there's so many shiny things, and it's really easy to kind of go, I'm going to do that, but to stay really focused on what I do and do it really well. And a pivotal lesson that shaped my journey was when I really started to realize the value of how what I learned in radio and what I learned in social services combined. And one of the things I'm really seeing with a lot of my clients, like one of them, she had this amazing career as a speaker trainer, but her heart was music. She wrote songs and loved to sing at different events, and now she's combined the two. And so I think as for me, as I've aged, combining the things I know and I've done, that it makes what we do more unique, because we're bringing different angles. So, like when I'm in the newsroom, and my degree isn't in journalism, it's in social services, and I say something about the compassionate element, they're like, "Oh, or here's a book that covers that." Like we hear all the time, women who this have you heard this on the news? She had a restraining order and yet she was shot. And I'm like, no restraining order is ever going to save a woman. But this book, The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker, that's going to save a woman. So what I bring is different and hopefully helpful. And the encouragement that I would offer is believe in what you do, and know that what you have is special, and who you work with, that, like, I remember when I first became a coach, and it was fairly new. It was in 1999. And I got this one client, and she was mad because she wanted me to do the work for her. And I'm like, no, you have to do the work. You have to reflect. You have to think about. And so and I still do coaching. I actually, this is so bizarre. I coach a lot of doctors. I don't know really how that happened, but I'm like, here's little old me. I got a degree in social services and I'm coaching these doctors. But then again, what I recognized is what I bring is the reducing it to the ridiculous, the breaking it down into doable parts, and being a cheerleader, which I was in high school, and an encourager. And so, my encouragement is leave a legacy, write that book, do that podcast, or just pick up your phone and start recording messages to your family, stories that you remember, things that they may not know, and just leave them on your phone, because when we go, and if we go unexpectedly, they will have a library of ways to remember you and stories that will help them keep it straight. That's my heart behind the daily hustle.
Beautiful, Lori. Thank you so much. I love the way you started, by the way. It's so you. It's so much fun, and it had me tapping my feet and just, remembering, because songs are powerful. It takes you back to, you hear a song and it's like it takes you back to when you were, 20 or when you were 30 or going through certain things. So compelling, so fun. That was a great way to start off.
Thank you.
So this would be a great time. You did such a great job of just addressing and kind of tying a bow around things, but what would you say just kind of to all of us, from all the things that you've learned in your life, from all the different experiences, what would you say would be your secret sauce? And I know that you mentioned it a different ways in terms of being able to combine things you do and to communicate to people, so they feel like you're really speaking to them. But is there anything else that you think has really set you apart or um, helped you on your journey?
That's a great question. And I learned it from when I was uh, doing the Big Brother, Big Sister. I ran that program on Whidbey Island, and we had the biggest school program. We had over 100 bigs and 100 littles. And what I learned during that was how important it is to see the person. And so when the big would come to me and they would say, "Oh, I just want to buy him all these presents," and I'd say, if you do that, then they're going to expect it all the time. How can you be a friend to this child without, by just being you? And I realized how hard that was for people to really realize that, what you mean, if I just go shoot some hoops with this kid and don't bring him a present, they're going to, well, yeah, they love it. And the kids, actually, the teenagers that were meeting with the littles got it way bigger, better than the adults got it. And so what I feel is different about me is, yes, I have a program, but I don't try to fit anybody into my program. I listen, I see what they need, what they want, what works for them, and then I go from there, because I think it's way more important to help people where they're at, meet them where they're at, and help them do what it is they want to do versus trying to get them to do what I want them to do. And it's sort of that, putting a round ball in a square hole, it doesn't work. And when I worked at this family resource center, that was their motto. They said, "You come in, tell us what you need, and we'll refer you. We'll help you find what you need. We won't try to fit you into our programs." And that was really anchoring for me when I first went back to college, to realize how important it is to absolutely see people where they are.
I love that. And really, what I hear you saying is that we're enough. We don't have to bribe our grandkids or, gift giving we all have different gifts and some
Mhm.
of service, some giving gifts, some, affirmation. But, to really be with we're enough, I think on our end is important and people get that. And then we can be able to contribute them in the way that they need to be loved and affirmed and acknowledged. So
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful philosophy. Now, you spoke to our community recently and we did a conversation to connect, but for those who haven't listened to it yet, could you go into more, really the power of helping people to lean in by speaking to them, not just to an audience, not, hey guys, hey everyone, but you have such a beautiful and unique perspective of focusing on the individual. Can you tell us more about how that has helped you?
Yeah, that was such a great conversation, because some things came up. Like our friend Danny said, "Well, I say we." So one of the things I say is, when there's two different yous, we want to say you, but then we don't want to say you guys. And when we tell our story, we don't want to tell it, like, instead of saying I went to the store, a lot of people go, "Well, when you go to the store and when you buy the thing." And that's actually removing yourself from the situation, and putting up a barrier. And I like to use the diet, because so many people have tried diets, and someone will say, "Well, when you go on this diet and you lose all this weight and you get all this wonderful response." Well, now the people that have gone on the diet, it didn't work for them, because we all have different metabolisms. Instead of them being happy for you, because that's what we would want, they go, "Oh, I'm a failure. Oh, it didn't work like that for me. I've tried this and it didn't work." And I hear this a lot too, in when I'm in groups where they'll give ahas, and they'll say, instead of saying when I tried this program and I did the thing, they'll say when you do it and you get this. And somebody else may have tried it and it didn't work. And so now that alienates them and makes them feel less than. And it's not intentional. I don't think anybody does it intentionally. But when we begin to be intentional, and Cindy, this is what I'd like to throw to you, is because you are being so intentional about your language, what are you noticing? Are you noticing anything different as you do things different?
Absolutely. And And so are you referencing how people in response to people talking to you
Yeah, well,
directly?
for instance, in your podcast, you're like, well, how do I say this or how do I do that? So then you do it, and might feel awkward at first, but then does it become more natural? And do you feel like you get the lean in?
It does, but it's also, I'm looking at it from the other perspective. Of course, that's my intention, especially with the awareness that you're giving us, to be able to address people so that it's not collective. So it's you're really focusing on that one person. But it also makes me in reverse feel more connected to them.
Oh,
So I've noticed that I'm thinking of a particular person. It's like when you're doing a speech, they tell you, don't, you know, don't don't speak to nobody, speak to somebody, right?
yeah.
Speak to
It's,
somebody in the room. And when you do that, everybody feels heard.
yeah.
It's kind of a magical thing.
It
Uh,
is. And before we talk, sometimes we get nervous or, we're worried what people will think. And if we're thinking about somebody else, guess what? We're not thinking about ourselves. And then the thing we talk about is what we're passionate about anyway. And so then it comes out more um, authentic, I guess is the word.
it does, but I think part of it is being intentional.
Hmm.
Being really intentional about how you're communicating, who you're communicating with, and again, like you said, being yourself,
Hmm.
being your authentic self and being able to allow that to, when we want people to think well of us, I think that's a stumbling block. I know for me,
Hmm.
when I'm just trying to be grounded and be who I am, that's when I can be most present and be able to communicate. So,
Yeah.
Lori, you have such a beautiful story. And the reality is, we all have a beautiful story. And that's why we're doing this Heart Behind the Daily Hustle of Champions, because we all have a journey. We all have a story that's led us to where we are today. Challenging times, challenging situations. The beautiful thing is, if we can, really kind of reframe the journey that we've been on, we can pick out all those beautiful things that are gifts in the midst of that, right?
Yeah. Because our story is 100 little stories.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so true.
Yeah.
It is.
Hmm.
And okay, so what I want to share is you've always, as long as I've known you, Lori, you've always had a positive attitude about life and about your journey, even the hard bits, right? And there's a balance because we don't want to just gloss over it. We want to be able to deal with it. We want to be able to feel what we need to feel. Want to be able to learn the lesson that we need to learn and then move on. How have you been able to do that so successfully? Because I feel the pain, but I also feel the joy, and I feel the the betrayal, but also the lessons learned. And so you've just navigated that so beautifully. Help those of us who are still struggling with some areas to be able to navigate that.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you to say that. And one of the things I learned when I was 14 years old, I think Brenda will appreciate this. I went to a convention and the person said, if you don't forgive somebody that you dislike, you will become just like them. And my mom was mentally ill, and I disliked her very much. And I didn't, I just had to figure out how to survive that. And so I learned early on to find a way to forgive. And it wasn't because I was a saint, it was because I knew I would pay for it. And so then when I went through my divorce and I wrote my book, the one thing I wanted people to know was don't talk about your ex in front of the kids because it hurts them. And people would say, you're such a saint. And I'd say, no, I'm not. I know it will come back and bite me. And what I learned early on is if I share my struggle, for those of a certain age of us, I don't know if you are like me, but we weren't allowed to share. If we had been abused, if we'd gone through anything, and even going through a divorce, there was a lot of hush hush, just buck up and do it. But because I found a counselor and I was able to work through it, I was able to buck up, but without shoving it down. So I didn't have the bubbling resentment. And when it did come up, I dealt with it because don't we get activated in different ways? Like even when we're really past something, something might come up and it like it stirs something, and then it's like revisiting it and going, does that control me, or do I control it? And so it's being, as you said, very intentional. Doing therapy, having a coach, having friends that support me and give me a pity party when I'm done, and all the connections. As I look around this room and I think of how I've connected with each and every one of you in different ways, I love it, because I think I met Brenda through Wonderful. I met Cindy through my friend Sheena, and so it's all of those connections, and then being able to hold each other accountable. I met Marley when I was starting a podcast with someone, and she was so supportive. And do you remember that, Marley? I can't remember exactly how I met, but I came to your Bible study, and so having the connections and really valuing the connections that we have, and holding them in our heart, and knowing that if we can refer someone to someone, or if we know they're struggling, is that we have this group of people that will support us, and to me that makes all the difference.
I love that. It's really a beautiful web of connections, isn't it? That we
Mm,
have in our life. And when we look back at different people we've met, we think how we met them and who introduced them to us and the
mm,
situation. And it's just really fun. I love
yeah,
being able to do that. And it makes me realize that it's not just me, it's the community, right? And we need each other so much. So
yeah.
thank you so much for that, Lori.
Thank you.
Before we open it up for questions or just enter into this beautiful conversation with you, can you share how our listeners people who are exceptional connectors who are listening can be able to connect with you and learn more or take advantage of your coaching?
Yeah, go to www. I always have to put the three W's, Coach Laurie, Laurie.com. And I have on there, you can just book a call. If you just want to talk about podcasting, maybe you're not sure you want to do it. I'm not going to try and sell you. It's fun to connect and have conversations. And in fact, some people, there was a gal that from Esther's Place. Oh my goodness. She was such a tough homeless girl, and she came in, and a lot of ladies were afraid of her, and they wouldn't leave until she left, because they were afraid she might beat them up. And she got clean and sober. She found out she was pregnant, and so we were able to support her during being pregnant. And she had this sweet little baby named Emma. And she came in and she said to us, I'm getting off methadone. And if you have heard about methadone, it's harder to get off actually than drugs. And she said, if my little Emma can do it, I can do it. And so she arranged for care for her daughter. She went in and detoxed, and it was horrific. She told me later it was horrific. But she did it. And then she went on to have this amazing, wonderful life. She became a hairdresser, and she moved to another state with them. I can't remember if she met him here or when she moved, met him, but dated this guy for 5 years. It was so fun to see all their things on Facebook. And then he relapsed, overdosed, and passed away. And I see on there that she has started writing everything down, and she wants to write a book. And I'm like, she's got to meet Nicole. So rather than just saying, you got to meet Nicole, I said, what do you want to do? Because she said, maybe I'll make it into a film. Maybe she didn't know what she wanted to do. And so here, this woman who has survived so much and who has been so strong and lost her partner and could have easily relapsed, is now saying, maybe if I share my story, I'll help someone. And I don't even remember the question, Cindy, or why we went off on this, but it's just being part of a community where we can see people walk through change, make a better life, and then we can champion them. Uh, and I think she was surprised that I even remembered her, which surprised me. But so it's just being able to support people and help them with whatever's next. What was the question? I don't even
Well,
remember.
no, but that you gave the information for how people can connect with you. But actually,
Yeah,
that was my
that's right.
next question you just answered, and I'd like you to elaborate just a little bit more, because one thing that I didn't hear a lot of in your talk was the transition from Seattle radio personality to doing podcasts now. So talk more about that. Talk about your passion. And I can attest, the podcast that I have, Lori has helped me with, and many others here as well. So share with us that transition from being a radio personality and then the skills that you learned from that that have allowed you to really successfully be a podcast coach.
Well, when radio decided we're going to do podcasts, I was like, pick me, pick me. I ran into the person who was starting that arm of the station. And he said, well, what would you do? What would you do a podcast on? I said, coaching. And he goes, well, what would you call it? And I said, enough. And so I have another little podcast called Enough that, well, it ran on the radio station. Now it's over on my platform. And then we did another one. It was three of us that worked there. We just kind of a pop culture. And then every time in radio, we always say, if you've never been fired, you haven't really worked in radio. So every time someone got fired, we'd pull somebody new on. And that's been going on for about 3 years. And it's just kind of like we just talk about whatever's going on. And so then my girlfriend her husband wanted to start a podcast for survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And I struggled with that one, but we've been doing that one since COVID. And so then I realized I was kind of a radio snob. I was like, I'm on the radio. I don't need a podcast. But when I realized that having a podcast gave me all the content, I could tell people, go listen to this episode, this episode, this episode, and then I can help you. And it became building tools for me. And then now with my Interrupted, I've gotten to meet so many incredible people. And so I love being able to just interview people, hear their stories, and help them, give them a platform. Many people say, oh, you're the first one I've ever told this to. And so I love having that, using my skills in radio to be a good interview, to pull things out of people, and to really highlight them, not me. Like the podcast isn't about me, it's about them. And I'm always said a good co-host will highlight the host. So the good co-host isn't going, hey, look at me. You're going, oh, well, I heard you are really good at this. Tell us more. Like it's kind of just that giving it back to the person. And when I talk about sharing your story, you come on my podcast, I give you a platform to share your story. Maybe that's the only time. But again, say you pass, your kids go Google you, you've got a podcast. At least they've got your voice. They don't just have, hey, it's me, leave a message. So it's a way to help people have a platform, even if they're not ready to do a podcast or do a book. And again, you can go to my website and you can get a free consult, or you can listen to people who have given me testimonials and see how they like their podcast.
So you started in radio, you took advantage of the opportunity to learn, this new realm of podcasting and interviewing others. And then now you're helping others to be able to launch their own podcast.
Yeah.
And you created so many great systems. You make it so easy and fun because it is something that was really daunting to me. But you encouraged me that the conversations to connect that I had done in the past were content that I could be able to use and then supplement new content as well. So thank you for that encouragement. I highly recommend anybody who's thinking about doing a podcast, talk to Lori. She makes it really fun and easy, and stands what comes right alongside you because it could feel daunting to do this by yourself, right?
Mhm. And that's why I love doing the one-on-one, because number one, I get to work with people one-on-one. And when we do the final launching and putting in, we just sit and visit. We're co-working. And it reminds me of the ringlet, Marcel, when I get to be on there. It's just, we're all working together, while you're doing the thing, and I get to know the person more. And I say a lot, just trust me. Just trust me. This will work.
Well, thank you for all the support you've given me and others as well. And it's definitely a good next step for your journey in being able to support others and reach back. So this is a great time for those who are on the call. Feel free to unmute yourself. Let's have a beautiful conversation with Lori. If you have any questions, if you have any comments on what she shared about her journey and just encouragement, this is a great time to be able to enter into the conversation. So Marley. Or Marcel, sorry.
I have a question for you, Laurie. And you know I'm big on YouTube and you're big on podcasting, but at what point should somebody say, I need a YouTube channel or I need a podcast? Like, where do you start? Are they both good? Like, what's your professional experience on those two different types of storytelling?
I love that question, Marcel. Because I'm in radio, I love audio. And with video, you can see. With audio, you kind of have to paint the picture. So, like sometimes when I take Cindy's podcast
Hmm.
and somebody will say, well, here's my book, like I might edit that out because it's like you can't really see it on a podcast. So there's different things, but this is what I recommend to people, whatever you're comfortable with. So I can do YouTube. I don't love it. And I had to do a commercial this week for Rise Coffee and be on video. And it's just harder for me. If I could kick it out in audio, I'd have it done in 2 minutes. So whatever you're comfortable with, and that's where I coach people. If they go, well, I really want a YouTube podcast. For instance, Denise's sister, Deanna Powell, started with a podcast, but she did them on video. And because she was comfortable with that, I said, just keep saving your video because you can turn it into a YouTube. And that's what she's done. And now she's hired a video editor. And because of that, she doesn't need me to edit because she's got a video editor. And so she just does the YouTube and then she just takes the audio and puts it on her podcast. So she has both. And she is in the top 10%, which is, those are two different audiences, really, YouTube and podcasting. YouTube people watch, they pay attention. Podcasting, they're not really paying attention. They're driving, they're working. So that was a great question. And for me, it's like, what are you comfortable with? What can you see yourself doing? A lot of.
Fun. That's great. I love that. I love being able to put both mediums in that conversation. So Patrice,
Yeah, Laurie, I'm really interested in knowing how you went into broadcasting. You said that a lot of people weren't very encouraging. So what did you do to uh, overcome that and pursue your dreams anyway?
I was pretty shy, and that's why they laughed. And so I went to broadcast school. And the hardest part for me in broadcast school was the man on the street. They always do where you have to go out and interview people on the street. And most people loved it. They just stop people and ask them questions. And you see it on late night and stuff. And so I went to broadcast school and then I started sending out tapes. And never forget when I went back to my old job after I had a job in radio. And somebody said, "So, are you on the radio?" And I said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, yes, I am. I'll be on tonight." And they were like, "Oh." So it was, going through the school gave me the confidence. And it was funny because we would talk, I carpooled with these fun people, and we would get there and we'd be talking and laughing. And then it would come time to get in front of the mic, like get in front of the mic. And I'd be like, and I would be all serious. So I had a really hard time transitioning into just letting my personality be there. I thought I had to be really serious. So, but I had lots of encouragement.
that was a great
Thank
question,
you.
Patrice.
Yeah, thanks.
That was great. It's always fun to get, dig a little deeper into why you chose that. And even though, like you said, you didn't have encouragement, and I think you made a comment saying, don't listen to the naysayers, right?
Yeah.
Keep going and following your heart. So,
Yeah.
Nicole, I see your hands raised. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, Lori. It's good
Hi,
to see
Nicole.
you. Okay, so if I did a podcast, how much time per week would it take? Because time is of the essence, but I think it's a good way to get a message out and to do it in maybe with all the authors I have, to have them on my podcast. I've done a
Mm-hmm.
podcast in the past, and I also had it on different platforms. And I want to know, how do you get the reach? So three questions. One, how much time? Two, I think you just gave me, I got myself the format. So maybe two, I understand why I would do it. Number three is how do I get the reach to make sure that it maximizes the time and it's worth my effort?
Those are great questions. First of all, setting it up is going to be a little effortful. We're going to do some time together to, get a backlog. So my biggest thing is we get you a backlog so that if you have a week where you're sick, if COVID ever hit again, if whatever you had to miss, you know, you wouldn't miss anything. You wouldn't miss a beat because you've got a backlog. Once we've got that in place, so for Cindy, it's an hour a week or two because if she whatever Zooms she does. But if it's a half hour broadcast, it's a half an hour a week. It's you just once you've got it down, you just do however long. 20 minutes is really a good for a podcast. So you just do that every week and you keep your backlog and you keep up. So it's easy 30 minutes to an hour a week. And to get the reach, I would recommend doing both YouTube if you're comfortable with it and your authors are, do YouTube and do podcast because that makes a world of difference because it's two different, YouTube's their algorithms right now are kind of messed up and people that are used to getting a lot aren't, and I'm sure they'll work it out. But so all of my people have either A, they're in the top 10%, or B, two of them one has 45,000 downloads, and our friend Joni Elizabeth has 30,000 downloads. So the things that I teach you to do help you to get seen and heard.
That's a beautiful answer. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Marcel, I see your hands raised.
Awesome. Great questions, everyone. And Laura, you just look beautiful today in that red. I just
Well,
absolutely
thank
love
you.
you in red and orange. So as you know, like with me with data art, I'm very much like there's an infographic or there's a visual. So are there examples of good podcasts who maybe refer to a visual or two or three during the podcast and then link to that in the show notes? Or is that more of a YouTube thing? Because that's where I'm like, I got a voice, but I also want to show my visuals.
Exactly. And it's so good. So I'm going to say two things. One is yes, put them in the description and people can go get them. But okay, who listens to baseball on radio? Yeah, baseball. Okay, I'm in love with baseball on radio. And it's like the announcer tells the story. Like it's baseball. It's boring, can be boring, but the announcers, they paint the pictures. And I think that's why they call it color. Like there's the announcer and then the color announcer. And so if storytelling is your thing, enhance it and use it to tell those stories, describe your pictures, describe your things, and say, oh, by the way, you can go get it. Get this link. But we call it theater of the mind. And one of my favorite things when I worked at Metro, I was in the Columbia Tower and I worked with all these jocks in different stations. I didn't know them. We didn't have Facebook yet. And so on Halloween, I came on with Art Sanders, who I just adore. And I said, oh man, Art, I love your costume. And he is like, I didn't know if he had a costume. And so now he's got to be like, well, yeah, my wife gave, like, we paint the picture, we tell the story. It's theater of the mind. And that's why I so love radio and audio because we can really, I remember one time, remember the gardener? Who was the old gardener? Not the new funny guy, I want to say Herb Weisbaum, but he's the finance guy. Well, he was the garden guy and he was on and I was doing traffic and he says to me, hey, Lori, I hear you're leaving. What are you going to do? Well, I was going to meet my family and they were in the car driving and they were listening. And I said, well, I'm going to go work in my garden. And so it was, haha. And we left. And when I get to the restaurant, my brother's like, you lied. And I go, it's called theater of the mind. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear connection. That, yeah, I just was with, why can't I think of his name? I know Marlene.
Ed Hume?
Yes, Ed Hume.
Oh.
And I'm like, but I told Ed Hume, I'm going to go work in the garden and it made him happy. So we're all good here. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
It's all about making connections, right?
Mm-hmm. And telling the stories.
Telling the stories and making connections. And you do that by creating synergy, right? Creating relatedness.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So feel
And
free to unmute yourself. Karen, I see you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, Lori, I've never met you in person, so this was great to learn more about you. And I think you have a great story because uh, it's nice to know that not that you got beat down, but that a lot of people have a lot of similar stories,
yeah.
as women.
Mhm.
But my question is, you said leave a legacy by telling stories, you know, I want to do that, but how do you have other people do that? Because my dad is great at just dropping these stories, and I've told this before, just dropping stories on us out of the blue. And every time I ask him to like write these things down, he won't do it. And so it's like, how do I get him to tell us things? Because he has such an interesting life.
I love that question. And I will tell you this. My daughter-in-law, who I absolutely adore, asked me that same question. I said, take your phone, because her grandpa was so cute and funny. Take your phone and hit record. You can ask him, but if you ask him, he might take a while. You might have to leave the phone down, talk, and then he'll start telling a story when he forgets that you're recording him. And she never did. And that's her biggest regret. And so take your phone. There's a free app. It's called Voice Record Pro. It's free. And just turn it on whenever you're with your dad, because somebody can edit it for you. Like, you don't have to get it right when he tells a story, but you can say, I'm just going to record this for a future. And then, like, when I do interviews with people, like on the radio, sometimes it takes them a minute to warm up, but then they forget there's a mic and they start telling their story. And I recommend that. Keep that recorder handy when you're with somebody. I did it with my brother-in-law, and I didn't ask him because I knew he would say no. But I recorded him 2 times before he passed. And when I sent the recording to my sister, who hasn't listened yet, but is grateful she has it, she said, did you ask him? And I said, what do you think? So she knew I didn't ask him. And of course, he didn't say anything that would hurt anybody's feelings. So these are priceless. This is priceless to just keep it's like, okay, how many times do we go somewhere and we forget to do the selfie? How many emails or texts are like, we forgot to do a selfie? Just open the recorder and leave it on.
Yeah, I know, but it's like we'll just be in a conversation and he'll tell us, and then I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
wish
So
I would
just
have
turn it
recorded
on.
that.
Yeah. Like, are you with them for more than 2 or 3 hours at a time?
Uh, Not usually. That's the
Yeah, so
point.
just turn it on. Just
Okay.
turn it on. You
Yeah.
know, it's and there are phone recording apps if you're like on a phone conversation, or get on Zoom and hit record. Just record it and save it. Record it and save it. But I love that, because those are what people really regret that they don't have.
Yeah, because me and my sister, we've tried several times to get him to like write it down. Can
Yeah,
we
no.
just record you? And he just, yeah, I don't have an interesting life. And it's like, yeah, you really do.
Yeah. The trick is, this is my interviewing trick, is you push record. And then, you may have to ask them. Then they're going to be nervous, but then you start talking about things, and all of a sudden they forget that you're recording, and just let it go. Just let it go until you get in your car and go home. You can edit later, you can do stuff later, but, you know, have that audio so that you can just listen back.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
love that Marley just put in the chat. Some of my favorite reels are a video of my mom.
Mm.
Aw, I bet they are, Marcel. Fun. So Marley, you had your hand up.
I just, when Lori you were talking about the storytelling and who listens to baseball on the radio. This is just a comment. This is a story. Went to a dentist, and he was cleaning my teeth. And I said, my goodness, you do a play-by-play of doing of cleaning my teeth. And he goes, yeah, I always wanted to be a play-by-play reporter for Canadian hockey.
I love it. I was on Cairo. I don't know if you know G. Scott. He is on middays with Ursula, and he said he always wanted to be a detective. Isn't that funny? It's like, and I of course said, well, it's never too late. So,
But those skills don't get lost, they just get funneled through something else, like
mhm.
Marley's dentist. That's,
Yeah,
I
I
love it.
love it. I love it.
So feel free, anybody else have any questions? And you can just keep yourself unmuted. We can make this a beautiful conversation here. Kathy?
I don't really have a question, but what hit me, Lori, was when you said just hit record. My dad died when he was 38. He had cancer. So it was really quick because um, he didn't know and his doctors didn't know. But uh, we had a big family and we were all involved in music. And anytime there was a concert, my dad would record it. So he would have his little cassette recorder and he would push the record button. But in between each piece, he would tell a stupid dad joke. So those tapes where those are our most cherished uh, possessions because we get to hear his voice and hear him telling just the most ridiculously stupid jokes. So yeah, just hit record. I love
I
that.
love that. Yeah, I love that. I know it's really hard. I don't, I mean, I know why, because it's scary, but just push and record. You can always get rid of it if they say you push record and they just cuss and swear for 3 hours, just delete it. But you recorded it. Like, you know.
Well, Lori, thank you so much for this really fun journey that you've taken us on in your life, the things that you've learned, the ups and the downs, and all the things that have made you the beautiful friend and person that you are. What encouragement or parting remarks would you like to leave our audience with?
Mm. Well, if you don't listen to podcasts, maybe try listening. And just really, it's push record. It's get those moments whenever you can. And, don't, if you think, oh, this might be a podcast, you probably won't do it. But say you're in your car, you're waiting, and you just have this thought, you're inspired. Just push record and talk. Talk about your inspiration. Say what it is you want to say, and then stop and leave it. And maybe you'll come back later and go, wow, look, I that was really something. Because once you start getting in a habit of it, just like I said, all of those out cues, some days I would do 5 stations and I would say all those out cues, Spokane, Seattle, all those in one day, in 1 hour, repeating them, because then it gets easier and easier. And pretty soon you're just doing it. Marcel can probably say this. She's used to just, let's put on the video and get video. Let's get video. So it just becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, then you've got it. And when you go to make it a routine, it's already you ingrained in you and ready to go.
And share with our exceptional connectors your podcast so we can listen to it.
Oh, it's called Interrupted, Act Two, Reinventing Your Legacy. And the thing that I've really loved about it is I started it because I wanted to have stories of people who overcame. That was really important to me. And I have met the most amazing people. And now I kind of have this funnel of people that say, oh, hey, I was on your podcast. Can she be on your podcast? And so now I've built all these other amazing connections and I've just met amazing people. And like Patrice has been on mine, Nicole's been on mine, Marcel, Marley, Cindy. If you haven't been on, sign up. And then I get to know you even better. And here's the thing, I give you a media kit that is actually priceless. Marcel's like, why aren't you charging for that? It is priceless because you can put those reels, and people are always scouring the internet for stories. They see a reel. What if Netflix called and said, hey, I want to hear more about your story, because they see a reel? So the media kit is priceless, and it's our voice matters so much. And it's not about look at me, it's about I've been through this. I'll never forget, I'll tell you one more story. Louise Hay. I really liked listening to her stuff. And one day she said, if a little abused child like me can start a publishing company, and I was a little abused, neglected child. And if I can do all of this, it will help somebody else. And often my ladies in recovery, they think I'm this prim proper. They don't know anything about me. And they find out I was homeless with 3 kids for a while. Suddenly, it's all different. Our stories can touch the heart and make people know that we know and we see them.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. So, Lori, your musical history intro was so much fun at the very beginning. Would you bring us home with a mini outro?
Oh my
I
goodness.
know. It doesn't have to be different.
There was that song, you're cold, dead beaten, two-time and loving, leaving, lying. And I used to use that one a lot too. But songs do imprint our life as we go. And I remember this is my favorite song. Undercover Angel. It was Donny Osmond. I didn't know what it meant. I would lay in bed and pray for that song. And I thought, isn't it interesting? I'm not a singer, but I love music and I love radio. And it's been so interesting to see in our life. Maybe, I'm not a singer, but yet many of the people I work with are singers. They're in bands, they love the music. And so finding your place in whatever industry you're in and combining all the things that are you, bringing it all together. So my social services, my love for music and radio and speaking, even though I'm not a singer and never will be, that's why I say my song. So just look at all the things you have and realize it is your genius and you can combine them all and that can evolve as we go. It'll just keep iterating and evolving.
That's fun. So, Lori, can you add to the chat before we finish here your interrupted Act Two podcast? That's
Okay.
the title of it, right?
Yeah, let me
And she's
grab
on
it.
Apple and Spotify.
Yeah, and Nicole's coming up again on it.
What's the best way for people to find you on that? Just type in interrupted or type in your
Yeah, I'm
name.
gonna I'm gonna give you the Apple link.
Okay.
Apple's the best because if you do an Apple review for me or Cindy, or Brenda, you will really help our podcast because it's how many reviews you get. You can get a lot of 5 stars and that's good, but reviews really help. So
So
there you
I'll
go.
add your Apple Podcast link to the show descriptions.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Well, you're welcome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this third edition of our Heart Behind the Daily Hustle of Champions has been super fun. It's been a great way to get to know different champions in our Exceptional Connections community. And next up in April, we have Patrice Tabor, and she's going to be taking the stage and sharing her journey on Monday, April 20th from noon to 1. So add that to your calendar. You won't want to miss it. And all of the Heart Behind the Daily Habits of Champions episodes are on YouTube. So you can be able to see it if you want to see our beautiful faces. And it will be on my podcast in a couple weeks. So if you haven't already put it on your calendar, I'm going to be having a conversation to connect with our March spotlight speaker, Molly Clip. She's going to be sharing about teaching AI, and we're going to have more time to talk about it and be able to answer questions because, of course, the 20-minute spotlight speaker talk was really just a teaser. And we are looking at a date for a 2-hour skill shop. We'll announce that on Wednesday. So thank you guys for coming. And I just want to encourage you to remember to make every connection an exceptional connection. Thanks so much. Take care, everybody. Oh,
Everyone.
take care, exceptional connectors.